for the national anthem. Tech team, do we have the national anthem ready? Thank you. You may be seated. Good evening once more. Let me first start by acknowledging the Minister of Higher Education and Training, Minister Buti Manamela, and also the PSET administrators represented here this evening, as well as our host from Unisa and members of the media present here today. Tonight, we are at crossroads. August 2026 marks the end of administration for SETAs. The College of Cape Town has submitted its 6-month report. NSFAS is due to submit its 3-month report. For years, the conversation around PSET has been about crisis, about collapse, about administration. Tonight, the conversation shifts from crisis management to rebuilding. Welcome to the Unisa Graduate School of Business Leadership Distinction Dialogue, hosted in partnership with the National Press Club and the Ministry of Higher Education and Training. This is a home of thought leadership and frank public conversation. And tonight we ask, what did we learn in administration? What worked, what didn't, and what is the road beyond? My name is Musidi Mukhele from the National Press Club, and I have the honor of being your program director this evening. And I'm joined by our sign language interpreters, Eula Dunstan, as well as Eugenia Jose. Anyone at any point, if you need to make use of the restrooms, they're just on our right here. And in case of an emergency, our occupational health and safety representatives will lead us. Minister, thank you for your commitment to the sector and for joining us tonight to chart the way forward. As well as to Prof Matli, who is the Chief Executive Officer and Executive Dean here at Unisa's Graduate School of Business Leadership, joined by Professor Siputa, who's the Unisa registrar, as well as Dr. Chibase, who is the Vice Principal for Teaching, Learning, Community Engagement, and Student Support, together with Prof. Ophelia Lidimu, who is the Academic and Program Director here at the Unisa Graduate School of Leadership. To say we thank you. You stepped in during difficult times. Tonight, you account to the public. We begin by setting the scene for this dialogue. And please allow me to welcome the chairperson of the National Press Club to the stage, Ms. Antoinette Slabet, who will deliver the setting the scene remarks.
Thank you, Musidi. And good evening, everybody. Good evening, Minister, especially. And thank you for honoring us with your presence. Good evening to all our hosts from Unisa. We are so privileged to have a good relationship with Unisa, and all the panel members, everybody who is keeping things in order or getting things in order in the higher education space. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to tell you a little bit about my father, starting with my father. And I do this because I think it's so important to remember the people behind higher education. Many, many years ago, you can see I'm grey already. My father, he grew up in Zimbabwe, and he was put on a train by his father, who was a widow at that stage. He put his eldest child on a train with a bicycle and a trunk to come to Tikkies to study. My dad came all the way. He couldn't even speak Afrikaans, but he went to Tikkies. And he met my mum a bit later. My mum came from Lady Brandt in the Free State. At that stage, pupils left school at standard 8. That was now grade 10. If you wanted to do your matric, you had to borrow money. You could get a loan from the Department of Education, which she did. She got the loan, she came to Pretoria, she was trained as a nurse, and she had to repay that loan with her first salaries. But that education, higher education, gave them the basis for a good middle-class life. My father was in the civil service, and we were 4 children. All of us had the opportunity to study further after school. But that's not all. My father had a gardener. William Sunda worked for my father every weekend in the garden. He was my age. He actually calls me his sister because we're the same age. And William got a job at the Transvaal Roads Department as a storeman. So when William wanted to buy a car, my father was able to assist him because my father had a good job, but because my father had good training. When William's daughter Miriam, the eldest, wanted to study further, my parents helped to buy textbooks. She went to Tikkies, and I know William was often so worried because after late class, Miriam was actually sleeping in the library. He ended up driving from Hammanskraal late at night to fetch his daughter because he wasn't satisfied with her sleeping in the library. I tell you all of this. Miriam is now an auditor at the city of Joburg. William's second child, Isaac, studied electrical engineering. They are all set. And obviously it's their hard work, it's their parents' dedication. But higher education gives you a stepping stone. It sets the scene for a good life. And behind the higher education are these people. So often it's the first child from a village that goes to university or to college. And when that child arrives and there's nowhere to sleep, or the NSFAS money doesn't arrive, when these things go wrong, it's not only the child that suffers, it's the family, it's the village. And that is why it is so important, such an important sphere. The minister told me now that almost every family is affected by higher education. Is that right, that you said? It is so important to us. And we as journalists, we cover many of these things. And it's not always nice to cover the things that we have to cover. I always say that I wish Unisa would tell more of these success stories. I remember when I graduated with my LLB late in life, I went to fetch my gown for the graduation ceremony. And there was a lady sitting next to me. She told me that she wrote her exams. She gave birth in the morning. Then she left the hospital. She went to write at 2:00 and she came back. And I thought, goodness, the sacrifices. It's unbelievable. There are so many such stories. So the higher education sector cannot drop the ball. The impact is so big. And unfortunately, it has happened. But we are grateful that administrators were available, that there were interventions. And tonight we hope to hear positive feedback. As journalists, we will keep our eye on you. We will keep asking questions, also difficult questions, because it's just so important. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Slavet. So from our host institution, please welcome Professor Mwepe, who is the Acting Vice Principal for Research, Postgraduate Studies. I beg your pardon. From our host institution, please welcome Dr. Chibase, who is the Vice Principal for Teaching, Learning, Community Engagement, and Student Support, to officially welcome us to the University of the Land.
Program Director, Ms. Musidi Mukhele. Allow me to begin by extending a warm and a cordial welcome to the Honorable Minister of Higher Education and Training, Mr. Buti Manamela and his entourage, Chancellor of the University of South Africa, Dr. Thabo Mbeki in absentia, Principal and Vice Chancellor of the University of South Africa, Professor Nkuna. I want to also acknowledge and welcome Professor Siputa, the Registrar of the University of South Africa, together with the extended university management in attendance this evening. We also appreciate and welcome our host, Professor Mbatli, the Executive Dean and the CEO of Unisa School of Business Leadership. We also acknowledge Professor Lidimo, the Academic and Program Director at Unisa School of Business Leadership. We are also honored. I've been told that we've got members of diplomatic corps amongst us. We also welcome. We are also grateful. We're also been informed that Ms. Geraldine Fraser Mleketi, the chairperson of Thabo Mbeki Foundation is with us this evening. Let me also extend a special word of welcome to Dr. Koketso Rakhudu, the traditional leadership of the Royal Bafokeng Nation. And importantly, ladies and gentlemen, let me also welcome the program participants. We are going to hear it from you, and we are grateful that you are here. We are not going to read it from somewhere, but you are here. You are going to tell us. Let me welcome Professor Hlengani Mathebula, National Student Financial Aid Scheme Administrator, Miss Antoinette Slebert, who has been here just to set the scene for us. We do appreciate the chairperson of the National Press Club, Dr. Robert Nkuna, the administrator of the College of Cape Town, one of the PSET institution, Mr. Oupa Nkuna, the Construction SETA administrator, Mr. Lehlogonolo Masuha, the Service SETA administrator, Mr. Zukile Mvalo, the local government SETA administrator, and all the DHET executive that are with us this evening. Unisa as an inclusive higher education institution, we also appreciate that this broadcast, we've got sign language interpreters. We also appreciate that we are an inclusive and we are building an inclusive society. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to welcome you this evening. More importantly, because we are welcoming you at this month where we celebrate the legacy of the 1956 Women's March, who were marching to demand a better life for almost all of us. Can I request us to ululate and shout for those women to keep the legacy? Tonight we have come together, Honorable Minister, and we really appreciate you of this. As an epistemic community of UNISA, where we know that at UNISA, we become an epistemic community because we are related on what we learn and also the decision that impact on all of us. Indeed, we are captivated by the topic, by the discussion, resetting the PSET sector, governance, and the road beyond administration. As a country, we know that we don't have shortage of aspirations, There are many aspirations that are within us and within our realm. And that is why we are guided. For example, the National Development Plan 2030, the Agenda 2063, the Africa we want, which is almost a blueprint and master plan for transforming our society, our Africa into a global powerhouse for the future. We are aware that we will not be able to do this if the PSET sector does not come on board and play its role. We have well-considered, designed policies to improve education, healthcare, infrastructure, economic inclusion, digital transformation, and service delivery. this morning from 11 o'clock at the same venue, we had Minister of Energy, Minister of Electricity and Energy, Dr. Oupa, who shared with us, with his team, how they managed to keep the lights on for 365 days without any load shedding. And we listened to the inspiration from the ESCOM chairperson of the board. We listened from the ESCOM group executive. Indeed, they gave us inspiring stories. And that is why we have, and we are celebrating that we could have spent more than a year without load shedding. On that note, Honorable Minister, we also believe the decision that you say there is something that is not right in terms of our PSET sector. And hence some of these SETAs that are playing critical role, the decision to say, maybe we need to look and administrate them so that we can show them the path. Thus, this evening, we are happy that we had policies, yet we had consistent failure amongst this organization. We are also excited that with your team of administrators, you are going to alert us to say, where should we go beyond what we are at? What does the future look like? It was also inspiring to listen to the minister when he was saying, beyond load shedding, beyond 365 days, what is the plan? Which is quite exciting. Now, tonight, Statistics South Africa in their quarterly bulletin, they indicated that second quarter of 2026, the official unemployment rate rose by 33.6%, up to 32.7%. The number of unemployed people increased by 345,000. Which means now we've got about 8.5 million that are in this bracket. And yet, we say we've got a PSET sector. I think the question will be, or should be, what is it that we are doing to alleviate these kind of challenges? We are happy that we, in this, to reverse this trajectory, we got 3 SETAs that are going to share with us their experiences. Let me also quote you, Honorable Minister, that on February, you described that, I quote, systemic, documented, and serious governance failures, including the 4 consecutive qualified audit reports at SETA alone, CETA alone, and outstanding discretionary grant commitments running into billions of rands. NSFAS, which funds more than 800 students, on a budget exceeding 54 billion, was placed under administration for the 3rd time since 2018. The Auditor General has also issued a disclaimer opinion in 2024-2025 financial statements, with 45 billion in bursary spending that could not be verified. These are not small figures, honorable colleagues. Indeed, we know, and research also support that in terms of the peer review research that is out there. One research done by UTEB, which was published in the Contingent Business and Management, saying, exploring governance challenges in South African public organization. He indicated that there are same structural pattern across the state. Weak board oversight, politicized appointments, poor consequence management, erosion of the accountability mechanism over time. And indeed, tonight, we'll really be grateful if we can share some of these lessons, more especially from our panel, esteemed panel. We respect you and we are ready to learn and to share. In that spirit, let me welcome you. And I know that all of us are eager to learn our lessons. And we know that at times, higher education institution, places of learning can be places of contradictions, can be places of negotiating and sharing ideas. However, if we do share, we don't need only to do it for the sake of sharing. We need to move this country forward. We need to be a global player in this country. And I think an undertaking that the President Ramaphosa, during the State of the Nation address on 14 February, he indicated that, I quote, "We are undertaking a fundamental overhaul of skills development system to implement a dual training model that integrates education with practical work experience." He continues, "These reforms will ensure various training programs that we have in government are a door to opportunity, not a dead end." Closed quote. I wish to thank all of you that are here and invite you to say, let us engage. Welcome to Unisa, the home of leaders. Welcome to the University of the Land. And we exist in service of humanity. Welcome to this session. Thank you.
To deliver tonight's keynote address, we are honored to welcome the political and strategic head of the post-school education and training sector. He leads the department at a defining moment as SETA administration comes to an end, as NSFAS and colleges submit critical reports, and as we shift from crisis management to rebuilding. He is the minister tasked with resetting governance, restoring public confidence, and ensuring that skills and education deliver for jobs, for growth, and for service delivery in South Africa. Please join me in welcoming to the front the Minister of Higher Education and Training, Minister Buti Manamela.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Please be seated. Thank you. I don't know how long an iPad that has 8% battery power lasts. So when I walk off the stage, you will know whether the speech has finished or the presentation, or the battery is finished. Let me start by acknowledging our hosts, all our hosts, the Unisa School of Business and Leadership, the National Press Club, and everyone else who's been involved in ensuring that we have this evening. And thank you, all of you, for joining us in this engagement. And it's happening just a few days before we have a year of administration in 3 of the SETAs, which were, all of them placed under administration. Interestingly, 15 days in office. I think it was very risky of me. Appointed on the 21st of July, a few days later, placing 3 major SETAs under administration. These are not small SETAs. In fact, the 3 SETAs themselves constitute a significant chunk of the overall budget that the allocation of the levy system. And I think you'll hear from the administrators of those institutions as to what happened. A few months later, we, which was I think in September, October, we approached the High Court to self-review the decision for the appointment of the NSFAS board. And there were a whole lot of issues, and I think those of you who've been following the story would know the reasons behind that. But of importance was the fact that the appointment of the entirety of the board did not, well-intentioned as it was, did not follow the spirit and letter of the law. And I think in the same period, we made the commitment that we will stabilize the NSFAS in 90 days. I met with the NSFAS board. I think those were the first people I met with. They gave me a commitment. No, this thing we'll sort it out in 30 days. Don't worry, And then we said, all right, so what are the key deliverables in the next 90 days? But also in the same period, there was a lot of concern generally around issues of governance in the sector. By the way, when I went to Parliament to account as to why we've put the 3 SETAs under administration, some of the members of Parliament actually suggested that there should have been more SETAs that have been put under administration because of the extent of the crisis of governance that most of our sector education and training authorities were faced with at the time. I don't want to mention them by name now. They survived at the time. But in the same period, we had issues at the College of Cape Town, where I think primarily was around the role that the College Council was playing in relation to governance of the institution. And so we put in place a stabilization team which worked on and gave us quite a comprehensive report and recommended that we put that institution under administration. Now, the scary part of this is that these were not the only institutions that we were engaged with as a ministry in relation to their governance challenges. Many of those, we still continue to give them the necessary support. Universities, TVET, colleges. In fact, in that same period, just after I was appointed as minister, the Mangosuthu University of Technology had just concluded its administration. And then 3 months later, we had an engagement with the council of the university because there were other things, including some problems between the council, the vice chancellor, and I think, as you know now, the vice chancellor is going through a disciplinary inquiry, similarly at Unisa, and so on. And I think it gives you a picture of the kind of challenges that the system has faced. Now, 50 TVET colleges, each one of them with a council, with a chairperson who believes that it's their fiefdom, they're running this place, nobody's going to tell them anything. Well, sometimes the minister can. So 50 TVET colleges, 26 universities, all of them with their councils. And in many instances, the friction between council chairpersons and management, as to who's running the show. 21 SETAs. I'm going to say this. I hope I don't regret saying this when I go and meet with the SETAs. They're like 21 Dalmatians. So, you have to, each one, at least last year, each one with their own brain, each one with their own feet, each one believing that, they are an independent entity that runs a certain section of what the department needs to do. Now, with all of these bodies, and then we've got quality councils, I think you're aware, the Council on Higher Education, the QCTO, South African Qualifications Authority, National Skills Fund. Most, if not all of these institutions, in fact, we have been involved in discussions around whether the NSF should have a board or not, with the HRDC. So our sector is concentrated with governance. And in many instances, not that governance relies, or not that the success of the sector relies on the success of governance, but in many instances where there are challenges that ultimately affect students at the NSFAS or in SETA, those who are supposed to be getting stipends, students who, then get out and protest and so on and so forth. You realize that there's a serious challenge with governance. But given that bigger picture, what really goes into the media is granular. So it is that Dalmatians who runs far away from all the other crew who makes the noise, and who manages to catch the attention of the media. And so so the narrative out there is that we're essentially a sector that is plagued by governance crisis. That people are self-serving, people want to benefit themselves as individuals, people are using institutions to loot and so on and so forth. Some of this is true, but most of the institutions in our PSET sector are working very hard around the clock to ensure that they deliver the return on investment that South Africans expect of them. And that's the story that has not been consistently told. We have in total just shy of 3 million people that are dependent directly on this sector. That is students. Now you can add on your academic layer, you can add your non-academic layer, you can add on people who are dependent on this system to survive, both internally and externally. Now, that's a system, and the point I made earlier on, that it's a system that affects almost every household in the country, or at least the time we determined the threshold of 350,000 for NSFAS beneficiaries. We believed at the time 90% of South African household would qualify. So everyone knows, because it affects them, they knows what should happen with with the post-school education and training sector. And they have opinions, which is important. And it's within that space and context that we have to navigate what the priorities are. I used an unfortunate word earlier on, saying that it's a noisy sector. There's no day that goes by when a group of students in some campus decide to protest because they haven't received their allowances, or a group of workers protesting because they have a dispute with, the Unisa management. They're not getting the percentage that they expect, or workers at some SETA have been on an ongoing strike. So it's a noisy sector, and it can be easy to be deviated and deflected, from that noise by looking away, or changing our focus from what is strategic and what will move the needle in terms of the PSET sector making an intervention in society. So I want to go back to what I started with, what happened a year ago, and what was the kind of things that we wanted to move based on what happened a year ago upon importantly, what worked was that there's been a coherent political direction that the sector should face. I think that more than any other period, we all know that none of the institutions within the sector, universities, which are the ballerina of the sector, they believe they're the most important ones, the SETAs with their independence, the TVET colleges, which have now been put front and center by the president in terms of our skills revolution. As I said, all of those entities, all of them single. So the first thing which we said we're going to do with then the deputy ministers was that we have to build a single system. All of this very small component parts. I mean, if you break it down even to its minutest point, outside of the student, the number of campuses that we have, and so on and so forth, you realize that this is a monstrosity of a sector that requires coordination, that requires focus, that requires a disciplined political direction, which was the first and major task. But also decisive governance intervention, as I said, the different administrators that we appointed, with pointed outcomes, and I think they're here to speak for themselves. Sadly, what also worked was the narrative around the skills revolution, which is a presidential mandate. And yes, we have to consolidate what this essentially means, because it's got implications to universities, implications to TVETs, implications to the entirety of the sector. And it is going to be the driving force behind what we do moving forward. A skills revolution for a working South Africa. So I think that message, and sense of coordination around the skills revolution also came up. But we also were not shy to go and account, to go and engage, to go to parliament, to be scrutinized, to engage with the student movement. In fact, most of the first few days we spent with the deputy ministers and the DG and the department was meeting with the sectors to get to understand the space we're in they're at and what is it that could cohere all of those. So I think those are some of the elements that has worked. But what remains incomplete, and I think you can go and check what we said on the 19th of August last year, which was the first press statement. Some of those commitments that we've made, which was around NSFAS stabilization, that's why we now actually have an administrator 3 months in, which is indicative of that hasn't worked. And the need for us to focus our energies in making sure that the NSFAS work. And I speak to the Minister of Finance, and he tells me what he thinks about the NSFAS. I speak to all sorts of people who have opinions on what should work at NSFAS, and I'll speak into detail a bit on this if we have time. So that hasn't worked. The biggest challenge, which hasn't worked, which we committed that we should work on it, is the question of integrated data system. So from when you enter the system, Unisa or TVET or SETA or anywhere else, we should be able to identify you. What benefits are you getting? And so on and so forth. It's a project which is quite ambitious, but which we're very much committed to working on in integrating the data systems, which will solve a lot of problems. Our problems at NSFAS, our problems at DHET, being able to account as to who are we training, when, how, and what are they doing with that training. The third thing that remains incomplete is, yes, the entirety of the sector moving forward and getting into a reset, but having a clear and costed plan that drives both TVET colleges and community colleges and their transformation. Firstly, people understanding what are these institutions. You don't have to speak twice when you say, I'm CEO of Unisa School of Business and Leadership. People know what Unisa is. People know what a university is. People aspire to go to universities, and that's not a only South African phenomenon. The Germany that we're talking about of a dual system, many of the young people are rebelling against the dual system. They're pushing into universities. But what what hasn't been completed in this regard is getting people to understand what are these TVET colleges. What are these community colleges? And I suppose there may be some of you in this room who don't even know what a community college is and what it's supposed to do. But are they also adding value? Where do we need to strengthen them? What kind of resources do we need? And so on and so forth. And it's going to cost a lot of money to build a system that from entry at a TVET or CET level, give young people the necessary skills that they need to ultimately end up in employment. And then the fourth thing that I think is incomplete, and I think we quite, is the sustainability of our universities. We see Unisa, this huge institution. Is it sustainable? Is it an institution that will last for long? And in fact, the graph that we saw, that the university branch showed me when we were talking about, some of the challenges that institutions are faced with financially, is that if we do not make certain interventions around sustainable student funding, I don't know if the Prof Mathebula would want to tell you this, how universities are basically taking it personal with him, because if he doesn't pay tuition fees, it means that the university may not be able to pay certain things. So the sustainability of our universities is one of the key discussions that I believe we need to work. So looking into the future, so what do we do? Because it's not only just about all of these things. Now there's a base. You must tell me time if I can. Okay. So the base which we started on, other than all of those institutions that we had to intervene, is that we're running a very interesting system. So 49% last year of our planned targets were achieved, well, in 2024, 2025. So that's 49%, which means 46 out of 94. I think those of you, I saw the former chair of the portfolio committee hold us before the committee for these numbers. So we achieved under 50% of our target, but we spend all the money. Okay. Now that on its own, when you walk into the door of the department, should tell you a story that we are spending all the money that comes to us, but we're only achieving 50% of what expected of us. So that has to turn, because it may be 46 as a number out of 94 as a number. But those numbers mean people, they mean students, they mean someone who didn't get their allowance, they mean someone who didn't get their certificate, they mean someone who did not get to complete an opportunity for them to ultimately go and work. So we have to fix this. We have to ensure that at some point, it's AG's period now, and we're hoping that this needle would have definitely shifted, because money has to go into outcomes. We have to spend money where we see. So that's the foundation within which we started. And after engaging with a lot of structures, students, entities, agencies, and all of that, we said the big thing, as I said when we started, was to build a single, system. So beyond the appointment of administrators, which happened in July, and both of the SETAs and of the College of Cape Town, there has been the period between then and now has I think someone said I was appointed a minister at a time when the sector was in a crisis. I actually think that we're underestimating the extent of the challenge that we're talking about. And it's not necessarily a crisis. It's the necessity for a systemic reset. What happened last year, which was just about, whether we followed procedures in appointing chairpersons of boards and, and so on and so forth, yes, might have been, one of the issues. But importantly, the challenges of the sector are systemic, and it is time that we have a systemic reset of the way in which our sector has been organized. I think we're just too comfortable with what we have. UNISA is too comfortable with what it has, and similarly, the entirety of the university system. And there's a lot that is happening out there in the world, which imposes a new mandate, a reset of the entirety system. Of the entirety of the system. So, what is it that we need to reset? What should be our priorities, and how should all those priorities help us focus the post-school education and training sector in dealing with some of the scary numbers that were mentioned? 8 million young people unemployed, and so on and so forth. 5 million of those being, of a certain age core, 12% unemployed graduate, poor link between training and employment, and so on and so forth. So how do we deal with all of those issues? The first and major priority is for us to stabilize NSFAS. There's no doubt about it. I tried to run away from it. I said, no, look, I'm not minister of NSFAS. We have a board, we have a CEO, we have an administrator. But the drive for the stabilization of the NSFAS at a policy level has to be championed from the department, engaging with all the stakeholders, getting to know what are the real problems, and so on and so forth. And that we let the administration deal with issues around ICT, what student accommodation, student allowances, and so on and so forth. And that's in the immediate. But in the long term, we need a sustainable student funding model. Yesterday in Parliament, I said that we have had compounding shortfalls at the NSFAS since the implementation of fee-free higher education. What this means is, we have enrolled more than what we have. because if we don't, we'll be breaking the law or our policy, because our policy says any students who qualify, who meet this criteria, must be funded. And so this means that, there are all sorts of estimates, and I think yesterday the working figure that we have is 15 billion. Last year was 13.5 billion, and so on. And what this does is all of these challenges at the NSFAS. I mean, the 13.5 billion that we got yesterday, I didn't go to my mother and say, give me 13.5 billion. We need it for student funding. It's taken from the levy that should go into skills development. It's taken from the National Skills Fund, from the SETAs. It's reprioritization. I mean, the first intervention we made, the 2 billion rand intervention that we made in 2017, 2018, was taken from funding that was ring-fenced for postgraduate funding. So it's not just money that comes from nowhere. So the agency of a sustainable student funding model, cannot be underestimated. And so what we ask the NSFAS administrator is that for now, you see what you have, fix it. But for tomorrow, imagine if the state has 60 billion rands to spend on student funding, what kind of institution and model will we put in place that could succeed in distributing funding to students on time, to institutions on time, ensure they have accommodation that's proper, that's safe, and so on and so forth. So we need to go to ground zero with regard to NSFAS, whilst we're fixing what is currently existing. And yes, we'll provide answers on why he appointed advisors, why I appointed him, whether he'll be paid or not, and so on and so forth. Those we will provide answers for. But what is important is, how do we systemically change the National Student Financial Aid Scheme so that it's not only the significant number of students, majority who are getting their allowances, but all the students. Nobody has the fear of being defunded. Nobody has the fear of being kicked out of their accommodation, and so on and so forth. And so we need to rethink the system as we have. We've plugged in too many things into the NSFAS. We need to unplug some of those things. We need to go to ground zero when it comes to the NSFAS, but also when it comes to student funding in our country. We'll be talking to our colleagues in government, at cabinet, and everywhere else, in terms of some of the proposals that we have in ensuring that we stabilize, student funding. A lot of ground has been covered, but I think a lot more is needed. And those are hard questions. Questions around whether do we actually need the NSFAS? If we do, what type of animal it should be? And I don't think we should be scared. People get worried when the Minister of Finance says, I don't want NSFAS. That's not how the discussion is going to end. The discussion is going to end in such a way that we need to provide funding to students. The 800,000 students, we need to provide a means test. We need to provide a loan. We need to ensure that all of these functions are facilitated. Who does those? What were the reasons initially for decentralizing all of this? So that's the one major and important priority. We've set the term of the administrator up to, for 2 years. It's been 90 days. He's given us the stabilization plan. I've given him my initial thoughts. We'll give him a comprehensive response. But it is a good start for us to start at ground zero when it comes to NSFAS. Then the second major thing that we have to look at is skills delivery, and the skills revolution being the spine of that. Based on that mandate that the president's given us, which is very simple. Make sure that every rand that you spend on training, be it by the SETAs, a university, a TVET college, whatever, make sure that whatever that is spent on training, leads to employment. And so we've called on all the SETAs to tell us, what are your work integrated learning spending? And we need to shoot that up, because we must avail stipends for students to go and spend their time in the workplace. We're engaging, we've mandated all the SETAs and the NSF. I'm also personally engaging with businesses and saying to them, open up your doors for work integrated learning, for our apprentices. We cannot have business. And yes, many of our businesses, industry is doing trainings, investing a lot into training over and above paying the levy. But if we do not open our mechanic workshop for a student from a TVET college or from a University of Technology to come into that workshop and identify what a carburetor is. That's all I know in the engine of a car. But it's no longer there. That's even worse. That's even worse. But I think the point is that so we have to have employers opening up their workplaces. We have to have SETAs working as one. The National Skills Fund, some reforms there around how it funds programs. That's going to happen. We have to have TVET colleges playing their bit, community colleges playing their bit, and so on and so forth, to cater for every South African. I mean, the one thing about the PSET sector is that it's not just, your 18 to 25 or 35 or, the NSFAS has 70-year-olds that it's giving money, but SETAs give recognition of priority. So it's a sector for everyone, and therefore we must make sure that we provide skills for everyone. There's proper articulation amongst institutional types. One can enter through a community college and exit through a university as PhD, and it is possible. Today we were spoken to by a young woman who travels that entire journey and is continuing with that entire journey. It means universities have to work with TVET colleges, have to work with SETAs. It means TVET colleges have to work with community colleges. It means all of us have to invest our time, energy, and resources in driving the skills revolution. Then college reforms, both community colleges and TVET colleges, modernize those, make them fashionable, make young people want to go to those institutions. And it's not just about the beautiful flooring that you have here in those institutions. It's about the programs that we provide. I spoke to a young woman today who, together with her friends, they own a farm. They started agriculture after they lost their jobs during COVID, and they're cooperating basically, chicken, vegetables, and so on and so forth. They didn't go into a formal agricultural college to learn their trade. They took modular, short programs, short skills program in different areas. And a year later, each one of them differently producing for the local economy in the Ugu district. They're taking in young people as interns, as as apprentices, and so on and so forth. And that's the value that we can get if we have all of our institutional types working together, particularly reformed colleges. Community colleges should be able to provide those together with TVET college. So we've done quite an extensive diagnostic on our state of the TVET college, and I think we understand. Someone would say, "But Chief, you've been there for 9 years, so what do you need a diagnostic for in terms of TVET colleges?" But at any periodic time, for whatever intervention that we need to make, we need to understand what is the extent of the problem. What are we dealing with? Because in many instances, I had a member of parliament talk about the fact that we have unqualified lecturers in the TVET college system. But if you understand what a TVET college lecturer is, you will understand how fundamentally wrong that statement is. Because a TVET college lecturer requires the technical knowledge of the subject that they are teaching and also the approach and theory of teaching. Some of them may not have acquired grade 12, but through recognition of prior learning, through starting a program as N2, electronics, becoming an artisan, getting that theory of learning, and so on and so forth. So we need to understand that so that we don't get hooked into sweeping statement about one case in one college, and we believe that I always count how many sign language interpret, how many times they substitute to determine how far I am from ending. And then, so we need to do, so we've done the diagnostic. We have the bigger picture of where our TVET colleges are, where our community colleges are, and what needs to be done. And I think the next step is about, acting up into those. I've spoken about ensuring that we stabilize university finance. The biggest worry, yes, sustainable student funding, but one of the things that affects our universities the most is student debt. Okay, it's also the consistency of the funds that that they get, particularly, and I maintain that we will consistently use this thing as long as the disparities between the institutions still exist. Historically black institutions still remain, or historically disadvantaged institutions still remain the mostly affected in terms of the university sector. But then, beyond funding, issues around differentiation, issues around sustainability, all those remains important. And then the question of integrated center. But we cannot do all of this when we do not have the people and institutions that are capable and efficient in overseeing this delivery, starting with our own department. If you have 4 years, and that's how systemic the challenges have been, 4 years without a competent person to run your information technology systems, being a Department of Higher Education, it should tell you there's a problem. Okay? CFO, and so on and so forth. So that's where we're also building to ensure that the department has the ability to be able to execute all of these things. Now, I've spoken about, and which is where I want to leave it, and then we can take some questions about the fact that our sector is highly concentrated in terms of governance. And each time we get approached with creating a new board, and so forth, all of these headaches, arise. So part of the things that we've been discussing with 1 or 2 universities is the creation of an institute for governance and leadership for the PSET sector. They should be able to help us to induct each and every one of us who are working within the sector, what our role is, understand legislation, understand policy, understand mandate, understand where we're going to. Because some of the things that are done, and this has got, it's not necessarily a generalization of what's happening in the sector, but continuously we need to induct, people who get into our councils, people who get into our, so that's the one element, governance. But leadership, one of the biggest challenge in our TVET and CET sector, I was telling our DDG for TVET this morning, is leadership. Do we have the right principles in place? We're able to do a simple thing. explain what their college is, lead their college, define a vision for their college, and so on and so forth. So leadership is one. In fact, we've been working quite well with Unisa. There is a specific program that we've had with Unisa for quite some time that's focusing on senior executives at TVET colleges. So we have to expand that. We have to include, CETs. So governance and leadership has to be our focus. And it shouldn't only just be people who are in councils. It has to be student leaders. Yes, in their own terms and conditions. When we were student leaders, we ensured that we, give ourselves the appropriate, I'm not saying we were the best, we're probably doing the worst, student leaders. But I think the point is continuously, we have to make sure that we invest in capacity building, for leadership in the sector, for our trade unions, for everyone in the sector who has an impact, who has an influence, and who can change the direction of the sector, has to go through, that process. So that's one in terms of governance. Two, in terms of SETAs, I think some of you might have heard the president and everybody, I think people shut this down, close this, close that. But I think the most succinct of the mandate came from the president at the State of the Nation address when he said that we should rationalize the SETAs. He is very determined about it. And I don't think that me and him should fight about this issue. The point is that we have a lot of duplication in terms of what SETAs already do. Because you have this 100 matchboxes, all of them wanting to light up one tobacco pipe at a time, which is essentially less efficient. And I think how we organize those resources, and I hope Christopher will talk a bit more about that. But the rationalization of SETAs, obviously phased in coordination and so forth, is something that is inevitable. It has to happen. And it is starting with us ensuring that SETAs cooperate on the very basic services that each of them provide, and specializing on the industry that they're supposed to focus on. And then we can look at what happened post the expiry of the current licenses of the SETA. But that work has to stop now. It has to start now, because there's more benefit in doing that than in anything else. Lastly, universities remain, like all other institutions, an important component of our PSET system. But if we don't do anything about our TVET colleges, expanding in terms of size, improving their quality, and so on and so forth, we should forget about some of the things that Minister Ramokgopa spoke about this morning. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Minister, for your speech. Your address made it clear this moment is not about what went wrong. It's about what we do next to rebuild trust, strengthen governance, and deliver skills that change lives. You actually gave it a much better word, a skills revolution. To take us deeper into the next conversation, which is a panel conversation, we are honored to have I don't see in the room. Okay, to take us deeper into this conversation, we are honored to have as our moderator a leading voice in business leadership and governance. She is the academic director at the Unisa Graduate School of Business Leadership. Her name is Professor Ophelia Lidimu. I think while she makes her way, please allow me to call to the front as well the panelists, Professor Hlengani Mathebula, National Student Financial Aid Scheme, Dr. Robert Nkuna, Administrator of the College of Cape Town, Professor Walter Matli from Unisa, who is the Executive Dean and the CEO of Unisa School of Business Leadership, Mr. Oupa Nkwane, Construction SETA Administrator, Mr. Lehlogonolo Masoha, Services SETA Administrator, Mr. Zukile Mvalo, Local Government SETA Administrator. Please give them a hand of applause. I'm going to hand over to our moderator. She's here, Professor Ophelia Lidimu. She is the Academic and Programs Director here at Unisa SBL. Professor Lidimu, over to you.
Thank you, Memishidi, and good evening, everyone. Special greetings to our minister. Thank you, Minister, Honorable Minister Buti Manamela, and for sharing such important issues that have been faced by the sector, especially issues around governance, sustainability of universities, the need for an integrated data system. And we are really grateful that you were able to articulate to us the importance of focusing on strategic imperatives as a sector, having a decisive leadership, and focusing on skills revolution for our nation. I would like to also greet our panel members. Professor Mathebula, Dr. Nkuna, Prof. Matli, Mr. Nkwane, Mr. Masoha, and Mr. Mvalo. Panel members, in 1 minute, we'll start with you, Prof. Mathebula. Please share with us your views about the minister's keynote address. 1 minute.
Yeah, no, I think it is a setup to have to start with me. But I think let's attempt in the sense that I probably just need to be able to confine myself to that which I'm tasked to do, which is the restoration of trust in NSFAS as an institution. One can go into much detail about what is wrong about the institution. But I want to suppose that given that we are talking to the National Press Club, the audience that is in this room will be well aware of the problems besetting NSFAS as an entity.
Okay.
Secondly, we are in an institution of higher learning, which is Unisa. So it is really in the cold face of the real problems that one should talk about when you relate to NSFAS. But much more quickly is that when we arrived at NSFAS on the 4th of May, we found a broken institution.
Okay.
We found an institution with unreliable IT systems. We found an institution with a disclaimer, an audit opinion. Now, when the Auditor General says the institution has a disclaimer, it means that they couldn't even touch the books, essentially. I don't know how many of the professionals sitting here have ever encountered an institution with 9 material irregularities. We found an institution that was practically operating as a ghost town in a head office that costs more money than it should potentially do.
Okay.
So I think those are the problems, and I think the minister has highlighted that.
Okay.
Maybe to then give content to what then the minister has said is to then, what is the state of NSFAS 90 days or actually 100 days from the date on which we started. Today, NSFAS is an entity that we are going to restructure to ensure that it is not an entity that is based in Cape Town, servicing largely universities and TVET colleges that are in the main outside of Cape Town, thousands of kilometers away from Cape Town. So we are going to regionalize. We're going to ensure that at least we move NSFAS to Gauteng and make Gauteng as one of the major regional hub that will service in Mpumalanga, Limpopo, Northwest, and the many TVETs and universities that are in and around Gauteng.
Okay. Thank you,
And-
Prof.
yeah.
I think we'll come back. We still have more time where you will give us details in terms of your roadmaps in terms of re-engineering NSFAS. But thank you so much. We are grateful. We will now hear 1 minute from Dr. Nkuna.
Okay, good evening, Minister and colleagues. Very quickly from my side, I think the starting point is that governance and performance
Yes.
are mutually reinforcing. So the minister is clear that it's not either or. So we need to make sure that the two always complement each other. Now, speaking from the College of Cape Town, this may amount to lobbying. Many people who are here, that we using this opportunity of administration to move forward. And how are we doing that? So I have a concept of electives.
Okay.
So electives are known to be, they are common in universities, particularly for those who are doing a postgrad. So I'm proposing that we do it even at our level as follows. We have started a program with the local government SETA as follows. We want our engineers to understand the ground. So at present, when you teach engineers, you only focus on what they do in the classroom, the technical aspects. But where we are now, we are using this opportunity to also expose people to the ground. Now, this can be a very difficult undertaking in the sense that when you look at the local government SETA, it doesn't talk to what I'm talking about now. It trains people in a linear way in local government. But what we're doing at the College of Cape Town is to take that SETA and say, come and teach people who are not necessarily in local government, but they need to understand local government so that when you deploy them into the ground, they also understand what is happening there. Another one, just lastly, very quickly, is the approach to artificial intelligence. So at present, it's seen as a linear path that stands alone. So you must go and do artificial intelligence. Our proposition is that everyone in the different disciplines should also do artificial intelligence. So it must not be a standalone, but it must be something that is integrated with something else. So the long and short of it is that we see a disruption across the different aisles, so that the SETA must not say we are stuck in this lane, but different SETAs will have to also straddle the aisles across the different areas. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Nkuna. Professor Madli, your take.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. So my reflection on the keynote of the minister was the misalignment between community education and training, TVET and universities. Every year we know that there's a number of students who complete grade 12 every year. Yet we know that universities cannot take that number. TVETs also cannot accommodate that number. And also community education cannot accommodate that number. So there's a need for us to capacitate community education and training, to capacitate TVETs. The minister spoke about a transition for someone who studied at CET, at TVET to university. But the question I'm just wondering at the back of my mind is, TVETs, CET, they've got QCTOs. Why are we not having degrees, honors, maybe up to masters from those TVET space? Because you want them to move from CET, TVET to universities. But what is the capacity for public universities? So let's look at capacitating our CET and our TVET. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Professor Matley. Mr. Nkwane.
Good evening, Chairperson, Minister, and colleagues. You know, I'm a product of TEFSA, you know, and I thought it was a bursary. And then when I got my first check, then they sent a letter to say pay back. So I paid back my TEFSA loan from Fort Hare University, you remember. So it's so the sustainability of TEFSA or NSFAS is key. So I want to talk about the importance of construction of skills authority in the country. By default, it's a permanent feature that is going to be required. But at this stage where we are dealing with an organization that was characterized by riddled with governance issues, challenges of accountability, riddled with, let's just define it, corruption to a greater extent, and a series of qualifications from Auditor General, and a non-response to issues of strategic importance that are actually impacting on the mandate of the organization. So those are the critical things that led to the organization to be subjected to administration. I mean, the president even said today that for the next 3 years, the country will be spending about 1.5 trillion rands on infrastructure. I think he was addressing the conference and say of engineering somewhere in Captain Park today. So I just did a simple numbers to check that means per day, we need to be spending 1.3 billion rands per day if you are to spend 1.5 trillion rands of infrastructure over the next. So you need a capable, well-structured, well-organized machinery that will drive infrastructure program. You know, if you look at SETA's configuration, you really talk about an organization that has about 32 or so skills qualification. You probably know the most sophisticated one, project manager, engineer. But it goes back in that hierarchy until a lady or a guy who's waving a flag on a construction site. It's our core mandate to deliver, to nurture, capacitate, and develop a whole set of skills that will then be ready-made, fit for purpose, and mainstream them into the economy. But you really need a properly governed, properly structured, properly capacitated, properly led organization. And that is the route that we are advancing at this stage.
Okay. Thank you so much, sir. Mr. Masocha.
Thanks. When you're being invited into administration, you're being invited into a troubleshooting space. And as when we started with our work in August 2025, we moved from a premise that says, here is a dark cloud that we have to deal with. But our preoccupation was about searching for that silver line to turn the dry season into the harvesting season by unleashing the potential of the institution while solving problems. Unleash the potential of the institution to be able to deliver on its mandate. And we're proud to say that 12 months later, we have achieved stuff that could have taken us quite a very long time to achieve. We multiplied our enrollment statistics from 23 to 32,000, multiplied our completion rate from 5,000 to 16,000. Out of that 16,000, there is 1,000 artisans, invested in excess of $500 million in the TVET sector, Prof. Matli is complaining here about non-alignment in terms of integrating community colleges who have invested over 90 million rand into the sector to make sure that we strengthen the capacity of both the community colleges and the TVET colleges who have invested in excess of 1.3 billion in supporting Professor Mathebula with the student bursaries. We're now working on investing yet another 3 billion rands in supporting student integrated learning through what we call a 20,000 internship program. So we've unleashed in excess of 5 billion rands that has been stuck somewhere in a problem which my colleagues define as a pocket obesity syndrome, where the SETA becomes fed in the pocket instead of servicing the ground. So we're unleashing that resource for the purpose of it touching the lives of ordinary people, which are the beneficiaries of these resources at our disposal.
Wow, thank you so much, sir. Mr. Mvalo?
Thanks very much, Program Director. Thanks very much, Program Director. Well, I must say, you know, it's for the first time also to experiment being an administrator of an entity. It's something I never thought of, but then it came. You know, when it came, you were given a clear instruction as to this is what you'll be doing. And obviously it is in the Gazette. But then when you get inside the organization, you realize, no, there's more than this. You come in the organization, there are governance failures. But then when you get inside deep and then you realize that challenges are so endemic in the organization. But then obviously for me, my priority was to stabilize the organization. The relationship between the management as well as the organized labor, it was almost close to zero. To an extent, the organized labor is saying all what they have done here, you should do away with, even an organogram. The organogram has been implemented, is 90% implemented. The organized labor is saying, no, don't even start there. So it means now then, therefore, you must start by building the relations between the management as well as the organized labor. Well, we know that the local government SETA is operating in a space where we do have 257 municipalities. 205 are local municipalities, 44 are district municipalities, 8 are metros. And all of them, they're expecting to get something from the local government SETA. Otherwise, we are busy with issues of governance. So, amongst others, obviously, is the relationship between the SETA and the AXA, Auditor General. You get in here, the relationship between the SETA and the AXA is almost close to nowhere. There is a disclaimer. The organization is taking AXA to court. And now we must go to court and fight with the Auditor General. And then I say to the team, colleagues, that's not our business. Our business is to deliver skills. And not to be busy fighting with AXA. All what we must do is to accept the findings of AXA and move on. Because AXA is saying there is 1.5 billion that the organization cannot account. And obviously we know the organization was attacked by a malware. But then the AXA is saying even before the attack by malware, so the organization could not account for 1.5 billion. That's too much. So you have now to enter into this space trying to build all these relationships, including obviously with your stakeholders,
your Salga, your Imatu, your Kokta, your Samu. Because everyone is complaining about relations between the SETA as well as with them. A minister is raising a very important point here. You have 1% that goes to, which is the levy, going to the entity. That 1% is divided into 10.5 is for administration. 20% is for mandatory. The employers, they will submit their workplace skills plans and annual training report. You give them 20%. You have 49.5%. In fact, that's where the battle is in SETAs, 49.5%. Because 49.5% is what we call is a discretional grant. So it's where you are dispersing. And everyone is interested in 49.5%. So that is why you'll be having these governance challenges, because everyone wants to get closer to this 49.5%.
That's true.
I thank you.
Yeah, that's true. Thank you so much, sir. Going back to Prof. Mathebula, tomorrow marks 100 days since you took office as the NSFAS administrator. How has it been, sir?
Look, I mean,
Tired from Parliament.
look, it has been a very interesting journey.
Okay.
I don't think it sounds like 100 days. It probably sounds like 10 years, given the challenges that we have had to deal with in that entity. But more crucially is the fact that in that 100 days, we have been able to return the students to be the center of focus for the entity.
Great.
If you look at what has happened, and Unisa is a very good example in this regard, we have had to make quick interventions to ensure that Unisa is able to register 26,000 students on a new registration for the second semester, and close to about 50,000 that it came through that were returning students. But much more crucially is that now we are able to intervene much more quickly when there are hotspots. We have reached a point where university principals don't have to talk to us via circulars. That they are able to pick up a phone and say, listen, I have a problem. And that problem needs to be intervened to very quickly. One of the good examples is what happened this morning. As I got off the plane, I got a call from the Vice Chancellor of the University of Mpumalanga to say, we have a crisis with student accommodation. In fact, we have had an unfortunate incident where a student was violated, and we need to move the students from where they are. And I immediately said, look, that's okay. We are sending a team down. As we speak, the team it's in Mpumalanga right now to resolve that particular situation. This interventions has happened in various other universities, and to the extent that now universities do feel, and TVET colleges do feel that they are starting to reclaim this institution that rightfully is their institution. Secondly, you have had the consistent problem around student accommodation, allowances. I can tell this audience that we pay 100% of living allowances, student accommodation, and books. And obviously, because we do not have the funds, it means that we're taking that money somewhere. In the main, we take it from withholding tuition fees from the universities. Now, one would then argue, why do you do that? Because you are then putting pressure to the universities to be able to be sustainable. But we think that universities are led by highly matured people and seasoned administrators that we can engage with, who value their academic project much more than a disruption that could happen in that system. Now, that's what NSFAS has been able to do in these 100 days. We have taken back some of the services that now we pay directly into student accommodation, something that had been outsourced in the past. Now, this might look and sound very small things that have been done in less than 100 days. But to the extent that we were able to produce a stabilization plan in that time, whilst keeping the platform burning or dousing the fires that are there in respect of all these problems, and still be able to reimagine this entity to say, what is it that is going to, it has to look like if, as to answer the minister's question, if you have 60 billion and there was no NSFAS, how were you going to fund students going into the future? And that's the question that we're currently battling with, and we hopefully are going to be able to provide an answer in 20 months from now.
Wow. Thank you so much, Prof, for sharing the great initiatives that you have started to implement in the first 100 days. Dr. Nkuna, as the administrator of the College of Cape Town, what were the key governance failures you uncovered at the College of Cape Town? And what is the one non-negotiable governance reform that must be in place to prevent us from going back into administration?
Okay, quite a lot really to say what we have seen in the College of Cape Town. One area is around irregular appointments.
Okay.
So irregular appointments are very common, or were very common in the College of Cape Town, in part occasioned, Minister, by the delay by the department in filling vacancies. So as the department delays, so what happens in the colleges, the greater chunk of human resources is the responsibility of the department, which does the appointments. Now, if the department delays, it allows the council to can initiate its own processes, justifying that we are not getting the support that we need from the department. So everyone will take advantage of that process. And what we're doing about it is a service level agreement that is needed between the colleges and the department. I would not suggest, Minister, that we go back to saying that the colleges must take over the appointment, because that was a problem on its own. Then you moved with a solution, then you have new problems. But we need a clear service level agreement, because currently at the College of Cape Town, we have 161 vacancies. And I can tell you with my eyes closed, I will leave the College of Cape Town without even having done 10% of that, because that's the responsibility of the department. So we need to look at that and see how we deal. Then the other part was abuse of procurement. Quite a lot of money was stolen in the College of Cape Town in the presence of a council that was supposed to ensure that there is governance. And what we have seen is that happened because council members were benefiting.
Okay.
So we're benefiting. What the principal would do was to get his share, but give other incentives. So the system is so vulnerable to an extent that a principal can get what he or she wants and give others, some incentives. So we have to understand that incentive system, not only for the College of Cape Town, but to look at it, as Minister was saying, that some of these problems are spread, are widely spread, and we are attending to that. The last part is criminality. That I think we need to be very clear on what constitutes criminality in the way people deal with a public institution. So there is quite a lot of issues that we've picked up, and what we're doing now, we have gone to the Hawks.
Okay.
We have gone to the Hawks and said to the Hawks, this is the situation. And it was easy for us to do that because I asked the Auditor General to undertake in-depth investigation. So instead of just focusing on the ordinary audit that they will do on annual basis,
Yes.
we had to ask them. They gave us 5 very detailed reports of what actually happened in the College of Cape Town. So all I could do was to take those and say to the Hawks that yes, you are present, see what you do with this, because we need to work together with security services. And very lastly, as I've indicated, we are on course in terms of the transformation to vocational learning. It's not going to be pop and place, but I think we're making the necessary strides and also proposing things that are currently not happening across the board. And we are getting cooperation from others so that we can lead and move forward. So I can safely say that the College of Cape Town, notwithstanding what has happened, is going to lead Minister in terms of what it means to respond to the challenges that South Africa faces. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much, Dr. Nkuna, for highlighting how you are addressing the issues that you have identified. Professor Matley, if PSETA services and funding haven't expanded in line with the growing youth population, what does that mismatch actually cost South Africa?
Yeah, no, thanks, Chair. I want to look back at the NTP, our guide, the National Development Plan 2030. It highlights access to education as a challenge. That's a document, a 2011 document. Again, that document is supported by the work of Claude, who did a report in 2001, also highlighting the challenge of access to PSET, to post-school education sector generally. So I'm just thinking maybe we can look at the skills revolution, but also need to look at the PSET sector. How can we reconfigure the entire system? The colleagues here spoke about providing funding for students. We know that SETAs, they do provide funding to CET, to TVET, but also to universities to fund some students who are doing particular courses. Here to have NSFAS that's also mandated to provide funding. So cannot have one pot that provides funding to the PSET. Then we're able to monitor the student movement throughout. And then also in terms of access, I'm thinking what is being highlighted in the number of unemployment. The number is increasing because universities, TVET, cannot absorb those students. So those students go back to contribute to the existing staggering numbers of young people who are not in employment, education, or training. People fight for space every year. We've got people who apply for 5 universities and they still don't get space. The following year they apply again. So generally that should tell us that capacity is not there to absorb them. But I'm also thinking, looking at the work that is done by the SETAs, are we not in a position to capacitate the SETAs to at least provide a diploma qualification that can be a pipeline transition to university or to further the studies at universities? Because we've got an agriculture SETA, why not find a way of expanding their mandate to be an agriculture institute where they can at least provide up to a diploma? Because again, the NTP 2030, backed up by the census, demonstrates to us that people affected by unemployment, most of them are those that have not attained post-school education. So how to make access more available so that we reduce the weight at the bottom? Because people who have obtained, yes, there are people with postgraduate qualifications in masters and PhD who are unemployed, but when you look at their numbers versus those that have not even entered this PSET sector, it's a challenge. And also in addition, I'm thinking of the certifications that you offer. Maybe when you look at the re-engineering, let's make sure, I mean, what happens in communities if I don't have access to a university? and there's a learnership or there's a SETA program, I'll go to do a SETA with my SETA for whatever 3 months or 6 months. Next week, maybe in the next available opportunity, it's again a certificate in electrical engineering. I'll go and do it. Tomorrow it's baking, I'll go and do it. At the end of the day, I've got different certificates which are not aligned, which cannot build up for me to take a particular path and enroll at a university for a diploma or at a TVET looking at doing a diploma.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you so much, Prof. Matli, for those contributions and recommendations. Mr. Nkwane, as the construction SETA administrator, what are the structural governance weaknesses that caused SETA to relapse after the last administration? And what is the one reform you are putting in place now to ensure we do not need a fourth administration?
Thank you very much. Administration by its nature is intrusive. So when I landed, immediately I was taken to court. So the first few days of my administration, we in court, we won.
All right, great.
So that's why I'm here. If I had lost, I wouldn't be here. With cost.
Okay.
With cost. Yeah, with cost, yeah. So, 3 key things that characterize the dysfunctionality of that organization. Firstly, just procurement relapses and governance around procurement. Hence, you find that the last Auditor General's report, we had a finding, a qualification area was just about procurement. And in this financial year since we intervention, we've managed to kill that qualification. Okay. In the last audit report that was finalized a week or so ago, we've managed to clear that qualification, which was a function of irregularities related to procurement. Meaning since we came in, we just streamlined, we just put the basics around the governance of procurement. The second thing was that, like Mvalo said, the contestation over discretionary grants. So when I joined the organization, I think I was a week old in the report in the organization, a report to approve 1.4 or so billion rands of the commitment of DG grants. So I subsequently cancelled that because you talk about an organization that has an annual budget of about 700 million with a discretion grant value of about $500 million. But then you want to commit 1.5 billion a year. We would have collapsed by now because we would have signed contracts that subsequently started to be spent and procured. Then we're going to run out of cash flow. So in fact, that's one of the things. So to regularize, to review and realign and repurpose the discretionary grant policy and align it to the fiscal resources that we're getting was one of the key things. But one another critical thing that one did was to reset and recalibrate the relationship with AG. Similarly, like Mvalo, I found colleagues that were taking AG to court. In fact, the annual report was approved almost like 3 months later. So I didn't necessarily subscribe to that logic of wanting to subject annual report to Parliament 3 months later after the fact. In fact, for the first time this year, Auditor General was saying that the audit process of SETA was on time and on budget for the first time in terms of that. But another critical thing was that the key sector, the clients out there, the main stakeholders in the built environment space, they are my colleagues. I'm a town planner by profession. So they could relate. So we could relate at a professional level because I'm from the built environment. So resetting that relationship with key stakeholders, especially levy payers, we now agree that this is the working model. But they are saying, Oupa, the taste of the pudding, it's in the eating. Let's see. So we are now setting up the plan of actions. We are in a new financial year. We've set the agenda. We've altered our skills, our working business model to say we want to adopt more of a strategic mega projects intervention instead of focusing on small scale intervention. We want to do strategic large scale program interventions that yields bigger returns, bigger impact, and subscribe to the logic of work integrated learning processes. So those are the interventions. I must say it has not been easy. It's not been easy. The newspapers were hard on us. Parliament accountability. It hasn't been easy, but we were there. We cracked it. Thanks.
Wow. No, thank you so much, Esther. Moving on to Mr. Masoha. During this period of services SETA administration, what were the core governance and oversight issues that necessitated interventions? And what is the single most important control you have put in place to ensure services SETA does not return to administration?
Maybe before I get into the service SETA, just to highlight one point regarding the PSET sector. You know, if you read the news in South Africa, every second day or every week, there's a Minister of Higher Education and Training in the newspaper or in the digital news space. And the issues that are discussed there in the news, they're not about the impact of the sector on society. It's about a chair that has not been procured properly, a table that has not been procured properly, a building that has got issues, or some advisors of the administrator. Undermining the whole value that the sector is adding in terms of the transformation of our society, but also the education system. And I think it's an issue that even when we deal with SETAs, nobody ever asks us, how many learners have you graduated this year? They ask us about, how did you procure that chair? And now the system is being judged on the basis of wrong factors that really have got nothing to do with the sector. And coming back to the service SETA, this issue of governance lapses seems to cut across all the SETAs. Lack of accountability, non-compliance with statutes, problems of supply chain, they cut across all the institutions. But also what I found it to be even a major problem for the SETA I work with, is the issue of poor planning. Poor planning wherein you find that the SETA has got an overcommitment in excess of 3 billion. People appoint service providers to do training. They get into the system, they recruit learners, they do the first tranche, they're called first tranche eaters. After that first tranche, they chow the money, they disappear. Next year, they come back into the system, they do the same thing. So you find that you've got a commitment of a project, maybe it's 30 million, they've charged 5 million. But when you multiply it, it goes in excess of 3 billion. And once that money is committed to a project, you can't touch it. So then we have to deal with the process of cleaning the institution. Search for these people, find them transaction by transaction, and eliminate those commitments. Claw back that money and redeploy it into other strategic projects. That is why we talk about all this investment that we are making in the sector, because we managed to zoom into the specifics of what constitute these commitments. But the issue is, why would a board and a management tolerate a repeat of this kind of shenanigans? But also, why would a management and a board tolerate 7 successful qualified audits and marching into the 8th one? You ask yourself, how do professionals sit and look at themselves and just tolerate the repetition of wrong things? So those are some of the things that we found in the service SETA. And I'm glad to report that we have managed to eliminate the bulk of those problems. As we deal with the audit report now, we have succeeded to reduce irregular expenditure with, up to 84%. As of this year under review, we have eliminated completely wasteful and fruitless expenditure for the period under review. We could only account for wasteful and fruitless expenditure for the projects that we cancelled because they could not graduate learners. The service providers were appointed, they chowed the first tranche and they disappeared. So those are the historical and wasteful expenditure, but we succeeded to stabilize the system in such a way that it will not tolerate any shenanigans. And as a parting shot, one of the things that we also had to introduce as a policy intervention, particularly to mitigate this challenge of SCM and related issues, was to introduce a policy on lifestyle audit.
Okay, great. That's great news.
It's a new intervention that we have introduced. We're working very closely with the SIU. They've assisted us in developing the policy, but also guiding us on how do you, going forward, bring this mitigation factor so that you can deter tendencies that seeks to interfere with SCM process, which is a major problem across all SETAs.
Wow,
Thank you.
that's great to hear about deterrence measures that you are putting in place. That's great. Thank you so much, sir. Mr. Mvalo, local government SETA still received a qualified audit for 2025-2026, despite re-establishing the Audit and Risk Committee and strengthening controls. What does that tell us about the gap between restoring governance structures and actually fixing them?
Yes, that's a very important point, that one. Testing 1, 2. That's no, it's working. That's a very important point.
Lift it.
When we looked into the AXA work for 2025-2026, the area that we could not do well is on the finance reporting. And the other area is misstatements.
Okay.
What will happen? The AG will give you an opportunity to correct your financial statements. So in that process, then when you readjust, the AG will do another sampling. When the AG comes back with another sampling and says we still have 18,000 here, which is incorrect, then the AG just reject everything.
Okay.
Then says that is a material misstatement in your finances. So that is the situation that we faced with within the local government SETA. Something very good is the performance, obviously. The performance for the yesteryear was standing at 90%. And now the performance is standing at 92%.
Oh, that's great.
And importantly, is around the area normally referred to as Program 3. Program 3 is where your learning programs, where your learning interventions are, your learning programs, your bursaries, your learnerships, your internships, and so on. So there is improvement there from 85% to 90% to 95%, which is something that we learned a lot, because what we did was to focus in the main on Program 3 and not to focus on Program 1. Your Program 1 will be your administration, or which includes, amongst others, your finances. So that's the area moving forward that will be paying a particular attention into. We have introduced a number of obviously measures now in terms of reporting finances. The report that must go to the Audit and the Risk Committee, that report must first, the report from finance, it must go through the Audit and the Risk Committee. It's your entire value chain is your internal audit is going to look into that report, and then that report goes to the Audit and the Risk Committee before we finalize the report for a quarter. So we're introducing those reforms within the SETA, and we really hope that we are going to change. Well, I know the administration we started 6 months almost before the end of the financial year. So this is going to take us some time to stabilize the organization. The big challenge also that we would face within the local government SETA, working with municipalities. We enter into service level agreements with municipalities. The municipalities, some of them, they find some difficulties to implement what they're supposed to be implementing. Leading, when we started, we had 136 million wasteful and fruitless expenditure when we started, because you could not account 367 projects, because the municipalities, they struggle to finalize those learning programs or interventions. And then the AG, when the AG comes, is saying you started your learnership, but then it's not concluded, there is no completion. Then when there is no completion, then it becomes your wasteful and fruitless expenditure. But what we have done, we managed to about how many? 124 million to clear those ones, whereby we agree that these ones, they are not fruitless and wasteful expenditure related project because you could prove. But then you do that in another year, not in the year where you should be doing that. So that's the challenge that we are currently addressing. And you're doing very well, as I said, because now we have systems and our wasteful and fruitless expenditure, it has dropped now significantly. So it means then, therefore, that the systems that we have introduced are beginning to work now.
Okay, thank you so much for sharing that progress, sir. We are now going to take 3 questions from the delegates who are here. If you have a question for our panelists, raise your hand. Mayor Mushidi, you will help us to identify the 3 that we can take. Okay. Mayor Mushidi, you can help us with identify the 3 that we can take. The 3 questions. Okay, thank you. Let's have the first one. Please, delegates, we don't want background information. Just go straight to the question. And introduce yourself, where you are from, and who the question is directed to. Thank you. You can go ahead, ma'am.
All right, thank you so much. Apologies, I've got a bit of a flu. My name is Senator Mbachijela. I'm from Her Power, Her Voice. It's a non-profit organization sector. So I've got, okay, maybe just before a question, I quickly want to say to the Honorable Minister, on behalf of the young people, the speech, not you personally, Minister, but the speech you gave, unfortunately, is not giving us the hope, Uguti, the PSET system in a D-head space is really moving towards a good direction. However, we have faith in you as a political head, and we know, Uguti, when we keep engaging, eventually solutions are going to come. Okay. I'm a product of an NSFAS, and we are hopeful NSFAS is going to come right. As I engage with young people every day, in NSFAS on November, we are going to apply. So please, let us not disappoint the young people. One question I have, there is carriers within the sea, the oceans, there is carriers within the air, the space, there is carriers underground. I'm not sure which SETA is actually even covering funding within these carrier spaces I'm talking about. I've not heard it. Yeah, I want a construction SETA, but this is on top of the ground. Right. That is one. 2.
Take only one, ma'am, so that we can afford the others an opportunity. We are really grateful.
Okay, just the last one for the services SETA, then I'm going to close it.
All right.
Services SETA, we see you as young people on the ground. Thank you so much. We appreciate you. What I do want to ask and propose, Wuti, is there a threshold? Mangaba umuntu is a training provider within the SETA. Is there a threshold where you are putting Wuti? Lo muntu must have different, maybe 5 accreditations to be called a credit provider, or you just take one credit or course anayo, then this person is called a training provider. Okay, can we have a threshold so that we don't have bogus institutions?
All right, thank you so much, ma'am. Let's move to the second question. All right. Okay, in the middle, that gentleman, I'm not sure whom city appointed. Okay, you can go ahead, sir. Do you have the mic there? All right, let's give him a mic. And also prepare the third delegate who's going to ask.
Thank you very much, Prof. My name is Avuil. My surname is Klabati. I'm from Amatole Economic Development Agency. I serve as the CEO of the agency. My question, of course, is to all the SETAs, and I appreciate the work that is done by the ministry and putting administration and trying to to get to the root of the challenge. And the approach that is presented by Administrator Masocha, where you are dealing with the challenge, but at the same time, simultaneously dealing with governance issues, so that these things move concurrently, because you still have these young people who still are out of these skills, you still have this youth unemployment. Now I want to check, because you've got these administrative or governance issues, do you have a collaborative model where you work with government agencies like ourselves, where they have good governance practices, they've got unqualified audit opinions, they are much more smaller, they execute very fast, so that you don't have a situation that was presented by Mr. Masocha of first time, what to call, the paycheckers, those who want the first tranche and move away, because you have got government institutions that also have got a risk in the implementation of the training program. You've got schools that were closed in rural areas where the buildings are still there, they are not used. Parents decided to take their students to towns. Now, all those blocks are not used. You've got government institutions like the entities that are not working. It could work to what the Prof was saying, to expand, because these universities and colleges, the buildings that are already existing, don't have capacity. But you've got government institutions that can help you. So what is your model of collaboration? No, I want to check whether these SETAs are collaborating with state-owned entities at a local level, like your district development agencies. That's the question. Thank you, Prof.
We are grateful for that. Let's get at the last question.
Thank you very much. My name is Nkoane Ketwa, the former Secretary General of this prestigious institution. I'm going to be coming from a background of student leadership. So obviously my questions would be posed to the minister and the gentleman who's the NSFAS administrator. I'm quite concerned as a former student leader, because it seems like there's always been a governance issue at NSFAS. So I would like to ask, what is the real problem? Because, you know, NSFAS is the backbone of our country. It has a moral mandate, you know, to fund students who are going to become doctors, who are going to become, you know, lawyers and critical people in society. So if we allow NSFAS to continue to fail at this rate that it is continuing, what hope as, you know, students and the student leaders do we have? So my question is, what seems to be the problem at NSFAS? Comrade Minister, is it governance? Is it, you know, power dynamics between you and the portfolio chair? Perhaps those are the elements that can be happening. Is it lack of skills? But secondly, and lastly, we must not be preoccupied about producing graduates, but we must be preoccupied about producing proper graduates that will be employed, who will have skills, who will impact society in a more, you know, impactful way, driving, you know, government and private sector issues in a proper direction. So we must be able to have proper, you know, SETAs that will derive a mandate of bridging the gap between, you know, education and skills development. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. We are grateful for that. We will start with the first question about marine careers. Is there anyone who is able? Okay, thank you, sir.
Yes, no, I think we have answered eloquently that question. That is Transport Education and Training Authority, SETA, which is dealing with your maritime, is dealing with your aerospace, amongst others. Perhaps then, if maybe you might require some contacts, you can meet with me immediately after the session, so that you get all those contacts. There is also another, maybe can I answer the other one as well?
About collaboration.
The collaboration.
All right.
Because I wanted to raise this very important point. as the local government SETA in particular, I just, I think it was yesterday, where we are having partnerships with many stakeholders and universities. I saw that we do have 13 universities that we are working with already, TVET colleges, 33 TVET colleges, community education and training colleges. We do have, as of now, 4, but then, well, I won't count within the municipalities. We do work with many municipalities. I identified earlier that we work with 257 municipalities. I know within the local government sector as well, we do have about 50 entities that we work with. At some point, a program director was just, when everyone is requesting to get something from the LGC, I was just looking into our 546 million, which was the expenditure we expended for financial year 2025, 2026. If we're just to divide that into all 257 municipalities, that would mean each and every municipality will get about 2 million.
Okay.
And we know that that's not possible. We do have municipalities with a budget between 40 to 50 billion. In as much as we do have municipalities with a budget somewhere close to 16 million. So it's always like sometimes what is submitted as a proposal from the entity that we are working with and the interventions, and obviously limited by our budgets.
Okay. All right, thank you. We can also respond to the NSFAS question. Prof?
Yeah, no, that question was directed to the minister.
Minister is not part of the panel.
I'll leave it to the minister. That one is beyond my paycheck. But can I just clarify something? I heard you say that you engage with young people and you encourages them that NSFAS opens in November for applications. Let's fix that. It opens on the 30th of August. But by November we will have closed. So they may just lose on that window. So I think that let's close that. That is for new entrants. The continuing students is the one that will be in November. Minister, I'll leave the portfolio committee to you.
Okay.
So we've had since 2018 3 administrators, I think. And then boards, and on each occasion, each of the decisions to put the NSFAS under administration, it has been as a result of the issues relating to the board in one way or another. So it's governance. Secondly, now NSFAS's budget, and yes, its role and impact, but the budget, I mean, if it's more than the city of Ekurhuleni, the metro, right? And that's one of our largest metro areas. So if you look at the complexity, not just of the budget itself, but also the IT that's required to run that institution, the kind of human resource that's required to run that institution, but also the fact that we are running an institution that's supposed to be taking us a 1,000-kilometer journey which means we want the most comfortable of cars. But we basically have stripped off that institution. I mean, the operations for the NSFAS is just below 300 million. Now you cannot run a 60 close to 60 billion, because if you include the shortfalls and all of that, on that amount, you need to invest into systems, you need to invest into people, you need to invest into, so some people have actually equated NSFAS to a bank. Now imagine if one of the banks, I almost said a name, one of the banks was, I almost mentioned my bank, was running those billions of rands, at that operational cost. So you're bound to face the challenges. So issues of governance, design, and mandate, and those are the things which I referred to when I said that once we confront those issues, we have to accept that with NSFAS we'll have to do ground zero. And I hope with the contributions of former student leaders, we will be able to get to understand what kind of institution do we need to be able to dispense the responsibility that the NSFAS holds. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much, Minister. I understand we have one question. Program Director who's assisting us to share the last question. Okay, you need a mic. There is a mic at the minister's table that you can use.
I think we are on now. Prof. Lidimu, so this question came from Siabonga Goni from Daily Maverick. He's following the proceedings virtually. So I'm going to read it verbatim. I want to find out how far DHET and Construction SETA is in resolving the issue of the salary of Mr. Nkwane. After the entities, individuals approved a salary for the administrator without Minister Manamela's approval.
Okay, thank you so much. I'm not
Department
sure.
is best placed.
I think the program.
All right, okay, Minister.
I think not the first question. What we
Let's get a proper microphone.
what we said was that we had the department doing an investigation into the circumstance that led to that situation, and a report was given to me, and I asked for more information because I think it wasn't really clear in terms of what consequence management needs to follow. But I think there's also a whole lot of other things that are linked to this question. And I think yesterday we said some of those things that needs to happen. Firstly, that we have a skeleton of legislation that guides us in terms of the appointment of administrators. And we need to tighten up in terms of the guidelines so that it's not dependent on the wisdom of the person who's in office, but it's dependent on additional guidelines that says, this is the kind of person that we need as an administrator. This is the kind of salaries that the administrators should earn in the PSET sector. This is the role that they need to play. This is what they, and so on and so forth. So we need to work on that in order to make sure that some of the challenges we've had with, the appointment of administrators, the remuneration of administrators, the support that administrators need to be getting, that's a reality. Remember that what you basically are doing, you dissolve a board, you almost displace senior management in an entity. You're bringing in this individual to come and assume the role of both executive authority and accounting authority. There has never been a situation wherein change is acceptable, particularly from people who have, wrongly or rightly benefited from that situation. And so you're going to have fights. You're going to have a situation where internally people are trying to sabotage the administrator. People are trying to, set up landmines. People are trying to, do all sorts of those things. And so it's important that we have, those guidelines that shows, what happens when, how, so that, when someone accepts to be an administrator of an institution, they know what is it that they're getting themselves, into. And maybe it's good that this is the last question, because besides the challenges that we may have had, yes, the challenge at the construction SETA where the confusion between the department and the officials at the construction SETA with the issue of the salary, relatively the administrators that we've put in place in all the entities, and I think we've all had that, have had a huge impact on those institutions. In terms of governance issues, in terms of the delivery mandate of those institutions, but also in terms of confronting what was essentially systemic issues, but also issues of culture. I mean, if you give some of them time, I know Prof Mathebula, this is one of his favorite topic, what people come to, I mean, people just pitching up at work. And I think somebody else also spoke about that. That people have to come to the office.
Yes.
That's what you're being paid for. You've got to report. You've got to say, this is what I'm being paid for, and I'm doing that. That simple thing, can unsettle people because they used to do all sorts of things all over. And once you say, hey, this is your job, this is your desk, this is your chair, this is what, your job profile, it unsettles people. And there's no way that people are going to be excited. That certain comforts that they were used to and accustomed to, which has led the institution itself into administration, that those comforts are being withdrawn. You're not going to have a situation wherein there's a smooth transition between a structure that has been dissolved and a new board. I think, when they have time after this evening, they can also share with you their own experiences. Dr. Nkuna was almost mashed out of the college itself. That's one of the things. Nkuna was threatened, even his life was threatened. Prof Mathebula himself, his life is being threatened because people have been accustomed to certain comforts, and the decisions of the administrators in some instances are interfering with those comforts and with those that honeymoon period. And there's going to be a fight back, and I think that we have to make sure that in the process of and the agency necessitated by administrative intervention sometimes means that we have to get into certain agreements beyond the date of appointment of these individuals, and that's a risk which they took. I don't know how much I'm going to be paid. I don't know the kind of institutions that I'm getting into, but they still had the nobility to dedicate their time and service to these institutions. And we are obviously finalizing the reports of each of the SETAs. Both NSFAS and the College of Cape Town are in their infancy, but we are really confident that the decision to put these institutions under administration have yielded results. And with those that are currently, have longer administration terms remaining, that, we will begin to reap the benefits
with time. So, yeah.
Thank you so much, Minister, for that comprehensive clarification. Panel members, your parting statement, not statements.
Sorry, moderator. I've been given a mic, so I'm not sure if there's a disjuncture between. I'm here.
Oh.
Between
last one.
yes, thank you.
Last.
And I've been very cautious not to protest because, we want to be demure.
Yes.
But it is Women's Month.
Yes.
And I'm finding the room very problematic. The stage itself is problematic. I thought maybe in the selection of hands from the floor we'll fix it. So at least Messi that fought for me there. Yeah. I saw her. Thank you so much. My name is Nompendula Mkatra. Firstly, Minister, I think the idea around an institution around capacitation for leadership and governance in the sector is a brilliant one. We have a prototype with the Matthew Goniwe School of Leadership and Governance in Gauteng. So I think we can move on that one ASAP. Secondly, Administrator, Tina, we've seen Ngasana there, we've seen Carlson there, we've seen Nonkoko. You are there. I'm not sure who was there before you. I think he arrived just as I was leaving Parliament. We've seen a lot of people there. CFOs, COOs, the likes. Minister, I agree with you. There needs to be a reset at NSFAS. And personally, my view is that perhaps the reset is not only at that higher level. It's someone who's looking into, the entry point, the engine room, to say, but nyani, we're going to keep changing the CEOs, we're going to keep changing the COOs, keep putting administrators in, and will we see the structural change that we need? So I agree with you, Minister, that we need a complete overhaul of NSFAS for it to really live up to what generations like mine and those that came before us, and I'm sure many of you sitting on stage as well, fought for. And lastly, Minister, when we speak about assessing the performance of our department and we're saying, look, we're not meeting our targets, yet we're spending so much of our budget, I think our analysis of performance and governance must not only end at whether or not, whatever else, but we must also be inclusive of the gender analysis, Minister. We're doing quite well. Last week, I think we installed a woman vice chancellor at the Mpumalanga University, or University of Mpumalanga. Not so long ago, at Walter Sisulu University, we put a woman in place. I'm very proud, Minister, where you have appointed me as a council member at Nelson Mandela University. Our chancellor is a woman, Me Pando. Our chair of council is a woman, Judge Dambuza, and our VC is a woman, right? But the people sitting in front of us, Minister, are men. And so when we talk about a reset of the governance of the PSET sector, Minister, we trust in you to ensure that that reset will also be inclusive of gender representation. Thank you.
So much for those inputs. Okay. Yeah. Okay. No, thank you so much. I think let's have the parting statements from our panel members. Prof. Mathebula.
I don't know why you pick on me every time, but anyway. So, just quickly, just to agree with the honorable member, the former, because she was the chair of the portfolio committee, she practically do understand the challenges that NSFAS has. But you are right. The complications at the NSFAS don't only reside on the 21st floor. They actually do exist from the 16th floor, because in some instances you do not have employees, you have political players at NSFAS. And we must be honest with that issue, that the fact that NSFAS at some point has been used as a dumping ground for political operators, has actually debased what that organization is supposed to do. And we must deal with that issue quite decisively, number one. Number two, I think we must, as a country, we must be very honest that the large part of NSFAS problem is self-interest. Self-interest in the sense that, I sit here, my colleagues talk about their budgets and all that, and I look at them and say, well, what are you talking about? I mean, those are small amount of monies. I'm actually a third of the budget of the Department of Higher Education. Essentially, the failure of NSFAS is the failure of the Department of Higher Education and Training. Now, with that, we do need to start saying that South Africans must be the first line of defense to defend this entity, because the beneficiaries of the rot in that entity are not going to stop, are not going to give up quite easily. And those beneficiaries are layered in every facet of our society, from people with responsibility to journalists. Because you can see with the fight back where journalists literally abandon their journalistic profession to parrot narratives that are intended to destroy an entity because their interests are being threatened, and forget that the biggest interest we should be protecting is of the young people who come from middle class and working families in rural areas and wherever else, and disabled people, by the way, in the main. So if South Africans can stand up as the first line of defense, really will not entertain these diversionary tactics of having to complain about a ticket of an administrator because he flew to Mpumalanga. What does that have to do with anything if you are going to resolve the issues of students in Mpumalanga? You are going to have to complain about an administrator stays at a place in Cape Town, and forget that the real estate and the hotels in Cape Town is a country on its own with particular challenges in respect of real estate. South Africans ordinarily can afford to stay in Cape Town. Now, you want to compare a price of a hotel in Cape Town to the price of a hotel in Johannesburg. It can never be comparable. And we get diverted to specifically sit and debate those kind of things. I will not get into the issue that lasted us for 13 hours in a meeting. I'll leave that, because that we must account, we must deal with those issues. But in reality, we must address the fact that when people engage and hold us accountable, they must hold us accountable devoid of personal interest into the entity.
Okay, thank you so much, Prof. Dr. Nkuna, your parting words.
Okay, I will end with the most difficult and painful point I didn't mention earlier on. So in the College of Cape Town, you had people from a particular country, African country, being responsible for all these things that have happened, whether in terms of employment or in terms of procurement. Now, to cut a long story short, the wife of the principal was near Mukomba, but the legal firm was Mukomba Attorneys. Then you move on, you had a company called Enyuka, Pumba, Shumba. You can almost guess that these companies were coming from a particular African country into our space. But I wish to believe that there was complicity by South Africans, that you can have people who come from a particular country and do all these kind of things. So it goes back to what Minister was saying about the kind of people we have, the kind of people we appoint or employ, to an extent of being complicit of having companies from Zimbabwe. One company, just in conclusion, was appointed to deal with audit. So you have an audit firm appointed irregularly to help you with audit, which means that the starting point would be for that firm to walk away and say, no, in fact, we're appointed irregularly. So we had all those kind of things that we're trying to understand and believe that the participation of the Hawks will also go deeper into understanding this kind of complicity by many people, including in our own country. Thank you. But the issue is that the College of Cape Town is well positioned, very strategic, can do much more than it has been doing. Many people from different places will definitely want to be in Cape Town. You know, there are many people who want to study in Cape Town. And as we move to digitization and introduce even maritime using digital platforms, I believe that we can do much more as a College of Cape Town. It's a very strong brand that needs to be nurtured going forward. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. Sir, Prof. Mati, your parting words, sir.
Thanks, Chair. Is it okay? Just 2 lines. The first one is that we need to work together to increase access and fight inequalities in terms of who has got access to PSET and who does not. Because if we don't, in 2030, we're going to look back, reflect, and realize that we did not do our part as universities, as private sector, and also as society in general. Everyone has got a role to play in that. And also people know what is right and what is wrong. Sometimes people do what is wrong and want to justify. I think we need to reach a point where we stop entertaining the justification. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Prof. Mr. Nkuna.
I think that my parting shot will, among others, include the fact that we're going to remain resolute on the post-audit action plan. Unfortunately, in it includes consequences management. Some people have to bite the dust in the process as we subject them to disciplinary processes as part of the consequences management. And we are resolute on that one. And when we do that, we tend not to receive favors and we receive threats, but it's part of the organizational redevelopment. The second part that I think we are doing is to then change the outlook, adopt more of an impact-based, alter the targets, not necessarily about the numbers that we have achieved in the scorecard, but it's about the numbers that have gotten the jobs through a work-integrated process. And we are gravitating towards that particular program through large-scale programs that we are driving. But lastly, happy organization, institutional stability, and what do you call managing conflicts in the organization, stabilizing the labor relations. So those are the core components that we are driving. But compliance, audit action plan, strategic mega projects, shifting away from piecemeal approach of skills development programs to large scale impact, and altering the business plan that is very much responsive to new innovative concepts such as innovative building technologies, microgrids, and those are the kind of new areas that the construction sector need to be venturing into. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, sir. Mr. Masocha, you are parting with.
Research indicate that the PSET sector contribute in excess of 500 billion into the economy annually. That in itself demonstrates that the sector is contributing quite significantly, especially in the knowledge economy, meaning there are also opportunities within the sector. And part of the problem that we are to deal with in the sector is if you've got opportunities created, especially for training service providers, and they do not put these opportunities to good use, they do not only cheat on us as institutions, but they cheat on the poor. So every abandoned project it's not just abandon of the project of the service SETA, it's abandoning the poor children who are supposed to be beneficiaries of those projects. So we call upon our partners, being the providers, to really do their part. And I must also indicate that we embrace partnership and collaboration, especially with public institutions, because we believe that it is more strategic to invest in public institutions than even private institutions. Lastly, one of the things that we need to talk about in the next round, God willing, is what we do with levy payers that contributes a lot of money, but they do not claim their share. Relative to the voices that are emerging that says, let's close the SETAs and take money to the employers. Because the same employers, when we say here is a basket of money available for mandatory grants, come claim your money, they are nowhere to be found. But yet some voices are arguing, bring back the money, give it to private capital, to the employers. So it's a discussion that I think we need to have, because we looked at this model of SETAs as an instrument of transformation, wherein we close the gaps that have been created by the markets. But when we're trying to make progress in this space, other voices are emerging, close down the SETAs, close down the SETAs, as if they know what will happen to the poor that we are helping once the SETAs are out of the space. Thanks very much.
Thank you so much, sir. Mr. Mvalo, your parting words.
Thanks very much, Program Director. Oh, thanks very much, Program Director.
Yes.
It's on now.
Yes, it's on.
Oh, it's off. No, I just wanted to check is everyone awake. And now it's confirmed everyone is awake. Program Director, our focus as the LG SETA Minister was speaking of our skills revolution. Part to that is to ratchet your workplace-based learning opportunities. I've noted that we spent about 58% of our expenditure on the workplace-based learning opportunities for the financial year ending 31st March 2026. So it's an area that we are going to invest more because we'll be able to deal with the challenge of youth unemployment and those who are not in employment, education, and or training. And now we know in terms of the empirical evidence that if a young person is exposed to a workplace-based learning opportunity, the unemployment rate will be somewhere at 33% or so. And then those who have not been exposed, unemployment rate will be somewhere at 67%. Right now, as was seated here, those who have gone into the graduates, the unemployment is seated somewhere at 12.4%. The graduates, those who have gone to universities. And those who have gone into our TVET colleges, unemployment is somewhere 24%. Those with grade 12, unemployment is at 36%. Those with no grade 12, unemployment is at 39%. So this then tells us, that we have much more to do ahead of us. Hence, therefore, amongst others, is to focus on our workplace-based learning opportunities. Supplementing this, is your occupational programs. We know now we have about 700 or in excess of 700 new programs, occupational programs, which have been crafted with the industry participation. As the LG SETA, we moved from that other financial year from 4 occupational programs to 18 new occupational programs. Then that gives us, as of now, about 22 new occupational programs which have been crafted working with the industry. The other area that we'll be focusing on, obviously, is artisan development, as I'm signing off. We know to train an artisan is costing about 206,290, just one artisan, whether it's going to be 3 years or 4 years. The National Development Plan is saying by 2030 we must have been producing 30,000 artisans. If you do calculations, that is equal to 6 billion. By 2030 we must be investing 6 billion to artisan development. So it's another area we, as the local government SETA, will be paying, or shall I say, we are paying a particular attention because it's part of your workplace-based learning opportunities. Thanks very much, Program Director. I must thank everybody who's here because I'm the last person to speak. Oh, okay.
Thank you, sir. I just want also to say thank you to the panel members for your time and participation. We are really grateful for the best practices that you have shared this evening as administrators, and it gives us hope that we are going somewhere. We are very, very grateful. And I would like us to appreciate our panel members. Program Director, over to you. Let's appreciate our panel members. The help of applause.
Prof. Lidimu, I'm told that Unisa SBL has made available some tokens of appreciation. Minister, if you can please join us on stage as well. May I also call Prof. Sepota and Prof. Chibas, Dr. Chibas to the stage as well.
Yeah, they will give the gifts. Professor Chibas, and they will give the gifts. They will hand the gifts. Prof. Sepota and Chibas.
I suppose I must be very careful.
In the meantime, I was going to call Mathebula. She's here.
You will hand over the gifts, this VP. Yes. No, we would like to appreciate you with a gift. Prof, let's have a gift. Okay, thank you, Minister. And then we have the gifts for the panels. All the panel members. All. How many do we have? How many? Yeah, I think you brought a lot. Yeah, yes. You can come, Miss Antoinette, to the stage. Okay. Yeah, for Antoinette. Okay, yes. Miss Champion. What's that picture?
Prof. Mathebula, you can't leave the stage as yet.
Oh, but look at. Okay. Is there anyone? Is there? Oh yeah, come. This is yours. Thank you. Yeah, very much. Thank you. We appreciate. Who else didn't get? Everybody got. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, this is too big. Come on. It's going to be a parliamentary question. All the so we're presenting it to who? To Matli. How many do you have? I don't know what's in. Oh, okay. Oh, okay. Yes, we understand. Yes. Mpeng orange. Okay. Yeah, but I'm Mr. Mpeng. Yeah, ke re motseng a mphe. Ke a di- Ke re ke a ipha na. Yeah, exactly. All right. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Minister. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, sir. Mm. Mr. Ali. This one is. Yeah, what is in there? Our VPs. Oh, Miss Barry. Dr. Chibas. Okay, Barry, that's your phone. That's it. Yeah, we need to do the last two. Yeah. Okay. Minister Bafi. And then Prof supporter. Thank you. Let us go. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, don't be busy. I gotta get it. I can't hand a gift to myself. Yeah? Yeah, I'm sitting grilling in. Okay. Okay, I can let me more fast. How me. Yeah, let's thank you. I'm leaving my tablet.
Okay, we are almost at the tail end of our program. Just one last item, and I'm going to invite Professor Siputa, who's the Unisa registrar, to officially close the program for us.
Thank you, Program Director, and good evening. Good evening. Thank you. Honorable Minister of Higher Education and keynote speaker, Minister Manamela. Honored and distinguished leaders in conversation this evening. Professor Hlengani Mathebula, Dr. Robert Nkuna, Professor Walter Madli, Mr. Oupa Nkwane, Mr. Lehlogonolo, Mr. Zukile Mvalo, Professor Lidimu, Miss Antoinette Slapet, who gave us, who set the scene for us, Dr. Chibase, and our two sign language interpreters. We are grateful that you are here with us this evening, that you addressed us. It is both an honor and a privilege for me to propose this vote of thanks after such a wonderful evening together. I'd also, on behalf of Unisa, in particular the SBL, Professors Madli, Lidimu, and team, which proudly hosted this event in partnership with the National Press Club and the Department of Higher Education and Training. This evening, we have been privileged to participate in a courageous and thought-provoking conversation on governance, strategic institutional renewal, and the rebuilding of public trust. And Mem Kajwa, I agree with you partly on what you said, but I think we really needed to hear it from the horse's mouth. And I think it was worth it, but we note what you said, and Professor Madli and Professor Lidimu and Old Aubrey, I think moving forward you'll take care of that. I think it will be proper for me to quote from our former state president, the late Dr. Nelson Mandela, who wisely reminded us that may your choices reflect your hopes, not your fears. I think it came out very clear when the minister indicated that some of the administrators' lives are under threat. And tonight's dialogue also reminded us that rebuilding our public institutions demands exactly that kind of courageous choice. We arrived expecting a dialogue of distinction. We leave understanding that distinction is not a title one attains, but a discipline one practices every day. And to our keynote speaker, our esteemed Honorable Minister, I'm happy that your headache is our headache. You know, I'm happy that you are prioritizing that. You talked about sustainable student funding. I think this has always been a challenge. When Mem Kajwa led #fees must fall, it was because of this. More than 10 years down the line, we are still having sleepless nights because of this. But I'm grateful that the department made this a key priority and that moving forward, we will definitely find a solution. We have to. And thank you for your wisdom. Thank you for your unwavering commitment to strengthening South Africa or higher education and obviously the public service landscape. You did not merely diagnose the challenges confronting our institutions, you offered practical pathways for renewal. And we are grateful that you managed to run around the country from Western Cape to KZN to Gauteng in less than 24 hours to come and be with us here. We are grateful for that, Minister. You reminded us that effective leadership demands courage. Effective leadership demands foresight. Effective leadership demands agility. It demands servant leadership. It demands ethical stewardship and an uncompromising commitment to public good. We thank you once more, and we take your word when you emphasize the issue of collaboration. Indeed, without collaboration, we are going nowhere. I'd also like to thank Me Slabet Antoinette. You know, you said something very much important. You talked about sacrifice. We will not go anywhere without sacrifice as a country. And we are grateful that you are here to talk to us about your father. That was a good example on a train from Zim to Tekis. And thank you for setting the scene so vividly for us. Our sincere appreciation this evening goes to every guest who joined us this evening, all our panel members, and our moderator. Thank you for your presence. Thank you for your thoughtful engagement. Thank you for your meaningful participation. And we hope that we will be able to resolve our higher education landscape challenges. And Professor Mathebula, You are our last hope. And we hope you are going to get it right. But with the support and the collaboration that the minister talked about, and the help of all other administrators and their experiences, we hope we are going to get NSFAS right. If we can get that right, I think we will be well on our way. To our able program director, Mem Sidi, thank you for the way you ran the program. Thank you for expertly steering this important conversation. You did that with professionalism. You did that with grace. You did that with insight. And we want to thank you. And you also managed to put the minister in a corner. But that was one way of ensuring that every voice that contributed was to be heard, and it enriched the conversations. And thank you so much. And to our colleagues from the Ministry and Department of Higher Education and Training, together with our colleagues from the National Press Club, thank you for your valued partnership with Unisa Graduate School of Business Leadership. Your collaboration and the tireless efforts of everyone working behind the scenes made this important gathering possible. Excellence on stage is only possible because of excellence behind the scenes, and we acknowledge every individual whose dedication contributed to the successes of this event. Thank you to all our media houses present here and members of the media. We are grateful that you are here with us. Allow me to conclude with the words of Maya Angelou, who said, "Do the best until you know better. And when you know better, improve on what you have been doing." She says, then when you know better, do better. This dialogue has helped us to know better, and we hope that moving here, living here, we are all going to do better. And we are saying, as we depart here, may we do so with new ideas. May we live here with renewed resolve to lead with integrity, to govern with accountability, to serve with humility, and to rebuild trust through consistent ethical action. Thank you for your presence. Thank you for everyone who made this possible. And we are saying, when you go home, please travel safely. We need you at your desks tomorrow. Thank you.
I know it's been a long evening, but I'm sure you all agree that it was worth it, because this is what the distinction dialogue is all about. I'm going to make just 2 announcements and then we should be done. Firstly, we have a buffet dinner that awaits all of us. The request is that we start with the first 3 tables. Our protocol team will lead them to the serving stations. And then the last announcement is from the National Press Club. We all know that the restructuring at Media 24, the uncertainty at several media houses, including independent media, but also that more journalists are moving into freelance work without protection. So we are convening a conversation to tackle this issue on the 19th of August at the Unisa main campus in partnership with the Department of Communication Science. Look out for the invitation. If you're not a member yet, take up membership. With those few words, thank you once again and safe travels home. But first, grab yourself something to eat.